My name's Reed Forgrave. I cover the state of Minnesota for the Minnesota Star Tribune, and I frequently write intimate, very human stories about really difficult topics. I've wanted to write a story about fentanyl and this epidemic around the country and here in Minnesota that has taken, since 2020, 400,000 lives. 400,000 is just a number. And the story of Lizzi Carlson, that's tragedy. I first got connected with Lizzi Carlson and her family about a year and a half ago. Elizabeth Flores, she's a photographer here at the Star Tribune. She was at a support group meeting down in the southern suburbs of the Twin Cities. It's a support group for families dealing with drug addiction. And she met Dan and Yvonne Carlson, that's Lizzi's parents, and connected me with them. Elizabeth, the photographer, and I then met Lizzi's parents several times and eventually got connected with Lizzi. Had lunch with her. It would have been in early spring 2024. This vibrant personality that still shone through even through the fog of more than a decade of drug addiction. And I wanted to know her story of how she got to that point. And I think just as importantly, Lizzi and Lizzi's family really wanted to tell her story because she was trying her damnedest to beat this thing. We met with Lizzi only once in person. Over the next more than a year, she would not show up for scheduled interviews. She then texted us later in the day and apologized profusely. But she kept wanting to be part of a story. And over the course of more than a year, she sent me more than 200 text messages. These text messages aren't just like, hey, how's it going? These are pages long text messages, often very confessional, really document this up and down roller coaster that she's dealt with over more than a decade of all sorts of drug addictions that ultimately culminates in a deep addiction to fentanyl and to heroin, to all sorts of opiates that really kind of, her family almost describes it like it took her soul from her. But she just couldn't get over her addiction. Over the course of the past 5 years, she's been in detox or in sober living or in rehab 57 times. That's what her family estimated. And she would be so excited at getting a new start. She'd be writing a journal and saying devotional prayers every morning and just be committed to it. And then she'd fall off. And then she'd just disappear from her family's view for months at a time. They wouldn't know where she was. She'd be living on the street. She'd be living out of a van. They wouldn't know. This was especially hard on her dad because he used to work for Metro Transit Police here in the Twin Cities for a decade. His job was to watch videotape of some horrific crimes committed in and around Minneapolis's Twin Cities transit system. And he would see people in the throes of addiction, just like his daughter. And every time he'd be thinking, please don't let today be Lizzi's day. Please let her be able to get to that fresh start. On the last Saturday of May this year, I woke up to a text message early that morning from Dan Carlson, from Lizzi's father. And he said, this is the text message that I never wanted to send. Lizzi had overdosed the evening before in a gas station parking lot here in Minneapolis. She was revived, but then she was on life support at North Memorial Hospital in Robbinsdale. The hospital kept her on life support. She was essentially brain dead. They kept her on life support so all her family could come in from around the country, from Alaska, from Oklahoma, from all over. One even came in from Mexico to say goodbye. And then just a few days later, the family pulled the plug on this beautiful daughter who had struggled for so long. And that night, it was this rainy night. The skies cleared. It was a huge thunderstorm right about when Lizzi was passing. The skies cleared and they went to Lizzi's cousin's house down in Prior Lake, and they had a memorial for her. Just an impromptu friends, family, neighbors, people who knew Lizzi. There must have been 100 people in that house. And this is hours after she passed away. And the family thanked everyone for coming. And they said, we want you to talk with us about addiction, and we want you to talk to other people about addiction. And to them, that's the meaning of Lizzi's life. And I earnestly believe, because of my communication with Lizzi over the past year and a half, that she wants her story told, as tragic as the ending was. And that night, like shortly before sunrise, there's crickets chirping, and someone runs inside and says, "Everybody, there's a double rainbow outside." And the entire Carlson family, 6 kids, Lizzi's son, they all gather for pictures, family pictures, right in front of this double rainbow. And Dan Carlson turned to me and that's Lizzi up there. That's Lizzi talking to us. And I know the family hopes, and I certainly hope, that there's some sort of message that comes from her struggles and her untimely death, whether that is don't do drugs, or whether that's let's take away the stigma. Let's talk about the sort of mental health and addiction issues that plague so many of us in today's America.